All right, cool. So, like I was starting to say, Shadi is off today. He is running around with his mom, who goes back to Israel on Wednesday. So, I'm going to do it, and it's perfect timing because we just Shadi and I and Elizabeth and Peter all flew up to Atlanta to meet with John Wetmore, and I wanted to kind of give you some of the information that John laid on us. He spit gold at us for a few hours, and it was fantastic. So I kind of wanted to share a couple of the things that he said. Now, you might not know who John Wetmore is, so I want to cover that first. He kind of told his backstory while we were there, but he grew up pretty poor and started working in a warehouse, doing the night shift, and no college or anything, just straight to working in the warehouse. And he realized pretty quickly he wanted to get out of there, because most of the people that he was going to work with, their whole goal was to do the same job but during the day. And he felt like he had bigger goals he wanted to accomplish in his life. So he went to a local cheapest college he could find and said, I want to get a degree. And they said, in what? He said, I don't know. I know I'll do better if I have a degree. And they said, well, there's the wall. There's all the different degrees. What are you good at? He said, I like math. I said, okay, so how about we have accounting? Or he's like, that's fine. Let's just do accounting. So he became an accountant. And shortly after, I believe it was shortly after becoming an accountant, I don't know how long he did that, he was approached to join FFL. And this was about 8 years ago. And he started working with FFL, and he said he was an okay salesperson, but he was good at talking to people, building his team and everything. And he kept working on that. He sold, worked hard, built his team, and then 7 years later sold it to Integrity. And so he was able to accomplish that and get a nice multi-million-dollar check from Integrity, plus salary. Now, like they pay him a salary to just be one of the faces of Integrity, and help and build, and he's a partner there, plus a stock option. So on paper he's worth a ton, but nothing yet until they go public. But anyway, so he worked really, really hard for 7 years in FFL and was able to sell to Integrity, and now keeps building through them. But he is really very humble guy. And one of the things that I really liked, and I think that it goes to say that this is probably something you've heard before, but you might hear it 30 times before it actually clicks. And that's how it was with me. I've heard a million times, he who asks the most questions wins. And okay, sorry, I had to write something down. So I've heard it a million times, you ask the most questions wins, and ask your clients questions and all of that stuff. But really, it didn't really completely click until I was sitting there with John asking him questions, and he was asking me questions back. And then he explained that philosophy of asking questions, and it just really stuck, because there I was, like, on the other end of it. And the reason we do this, you sit down with a client and they say, I can't afford this. Okay, no problem. Why do you think you can't afford this? And let them talk. Okay, and lead them with questions to the answer. So, okay, so you have a lot of expenses. Tell me, what are some of those expenses? Okay, so you mentioned that your cable bill is an expense that you have. I understand that. in your priorities, where do you think that the cable lies in comparison to making sure that your family has the money to bury you? Like, which is more important to you, right? Which is so much more powerful than saying to them, really, your cable bill is more important to you than protecting your family. You're just asking them questions. You're not arguing with them. You're not telling them what's most important to them. You're asking questions. So actually, I made a note and hung it up on my wall, and it's for me to remember to ask questions, ask them, right? And for dealing with questions from agents, for dealing with questions from clients, for dealing with questions from my kids. I mean, this literally is a great philosophy to use across the board. My kids are 15 and 18 years old. I really wish that I had implemented this when they were little. Um, and in, because when you ask somebody a question instead of giving them the answer, you're doing a few different things. One, you're most importantly empowering them to have the ability to think, and that's worth a ton. And it's not meant to be mean or condescending. Like, people's initial reaction is to go ask, and that's great. You should go find somebody who knows more than you and ask. But at the same time, you need to be able to work on coming up with your own answers to the problems that you have from day to day without being stuck. So I wish I had done that with my kids. And same goes for clients, same goes for any agents that you bring into the industry. You know, how much money am I going to be able to make doing this? How much money do you want to make? What's your goal? It would be a great response, you know. Um, who knows how much money they're going to be able to make doing this? But if you ask questions all the way through, you can lead them to the answer. So another thing that it does is it makes them believe the answer that they come up with, because they came up with it, not you. You know, somebody could say, you sure that this is gonna pay when, you know, my family dies? You could say yes, but they're not necessarily going to believe you, right? But if you ask them questions, well, company we're going with is Mutual of Omaha. Have you ever heard of them? Do you know how long they've been around? Over 100 years. Yeah. Do you think that if they weren't paying people, they'd still be around? Do you think, you know, like, I mean, I'm making it up as I go along with that one, but you can lead people to the right answer. Um, so anyway, I thought that that was really huge, to remember, and also to listen, because another thing he talked about was, if you're team building, if you're bringing people in to your team, you want to be able to help people reach their goals and not yours. And I feel like that's something that I have been getting wrong a lot of times in dealing with all of you guys. Like, we've put challenges out there, said, hey, if you achieve this, well, you'll get this reward. But that might not be your goal. That might not be what you want to achieve. And the story that John told that really sunk in about that was that he had a woman early on that would come and work at his office, an agent. She was pretty quiet. He didn't really pay her much mind early on because she wasn't really producing much, you know. And eventually she came to him. She had moved out of state. She drove all the way back to his office and came into his office and was giddy. He says, like a schoolgirl, giddy. And this is weird because she's usually so quiet. And she's like, John, can you come with me? I want to show you something. I just, come with me. Took him outside and took him to her car. which was a few years old Volkswagen Jetta. Not really anything to maybe really write home about, depending on who you are, but to her, it meant everything because she had been working to buy her own car herself that she actually liked, that ran, that was relatively new. And to her, this was everything. And he said that, her driving from one state to another just to get to his office, just to show him this car, changed his life because he was pushing his goals on everybody. I want everybody to be selling this much. I want everybody to be working this many hours. But that wasn't her goal. He very easily could have lost this agent. She could have quit because she wasn't hitting her goals and she was frustrated because, he was shoving his ideals down her throat of what everybody should be doing. And she didn't. She stuck with it. And but he knew that he lost a lot of people along the way because he didn't pay attention to their goals. And I thought that that was really, really powerful. So if you're bringing people in, he said, how when you sit down with a client and you do a financial inventory, he said, why don't you do that with agents too? Why? He says, with every agent that I bring in, I want to know, where are you now? Where do you want to go? What are you willing to give up to get to where you want to go? Not where he wants them to go, but where they want to go. What's your schedule like? What are your limitations? Do you have a kid who is playing lacrosse? Like my son plays lacrosse and I want to be at every one of his games. So is that a schedule limitation? How is that important to you? Okay, it's high on the important list. I'm not going to ask you to skip your son's lacrosse game if that's something that's high on your importance list. So we're going to work around that. It's that type of thing that is going to make a difference, getting to know the people that are working on your team and helping them to get where they want to go, which is going to make them happy, make them stay. And obviously, it's going to help them reach their goals. So you can push them, but push them to reach their goals, not yours. And I thought that, again, was another really big, moment of hearing it said, something that I knew, but, just hearing that said made a big difference. So I really liked the idea of using that, asking questions, and also of learning who the people are that you're working with, and even yourself. I mean, like a lot of us go through, day to day, just I'm going to dial because I know I need to dial. I'm going to set appointments because I know I need to set appointments. I'm going to run appointments because that's what I do. But why? Why are you doing it? Why is it important to you? What are you trying to achieve? Figure out what the goal is and then back it up so that hey, my goal is, say, I want to pay off my mortgage, right? So you want to pay off your mortgage. Okay, how much money is that? Work it backwards till you get to the point that how many hours you need to dial today because you want to pay off your mortgage, right? And not just knowing that stuff about yourself, but knowing it about the agents that you're bringing into this business as well, so that you can help them get to where they want to go. And that's pretty much what that meeting was about, to hear it from someone who has had, the ups and downs, but basically completed this business in 7 years, was just, really fantastic to hear. And let's see, I want to give you a couple other tidbits on what he spoke about. Another thing, he said that sometimes he has agents that will come to him and they'll say, hey, like, say somebody comes and says, I'm broke, I don't know what to do. So he says, how many leads do you have right now that you have not gotten a hold of in one way, shape, or form? So they haven't said either put me on your do not call list or bought a policy, right? How many leads do you have? So Heidi, I know you're relatively new, but how many leads do you have that would fall into that category? You got to take yourself off of mute though. I'm pretty good with lip reading, not great.
I'm a mess this week. 250,
Okay.
maybe
So like
more.
250 leads, right? Which is a pretty fair example. It's probably right around where most people are, in your situation. So 250 leads. So let me see. Let me ask Elizabeth, if you were to get Heidi's 250 leads that have never answered, how many appointments do you think you'd be able to book from them?
250 leads.
Yeah.
I would say for every 30, I would be able to book 1 or 2.
Okay. All right. So that's like 8 to 10 leads or 8 to 10 appointments.
Yeah.
So bearing in mind that she's already dialed them a fair amount, let's go with 6. Okay. So we'll cut it down because it's, it's been dialed a lot. So it's 6.
Yeah.
But out of those 6 appointments that you sit with, how many sales do you think you could make?
4 to 5.
Okay.
For me.
So we'll go with a low end 4. So that's on average about $4,000 worth of sales, right?
Right.
So Heidi, pretending like you're that person that just came and said, hey, I'm broke, would $4,000 make a difference to be able to buy leads? It would, right? Yeah. And you're already sitting on it. So this is what I loved about that scenario. He was given this example. He said that this agent came and he called another agent into his office and he gave this example and talked to the other agent. And then he said, okay, he went back to the first one, Heidi, and said, I want you to take those 250 leads and break them up into piles of 25. So make it in chunks that are easier to deal with, right? Take those 25 leads, dial them 3 times each. When you get through them, you've take the ones that you've made appointments, obviously, put them off to the side. The ones that suggested that maybe you not ever call them again in the kindest way possible, put them away and dial through what's left again, 3 times each. And then throw away the ones that were no good, put the appointments to the side, dial through them again, 3 times each. So now each one of those 25 leads has gotten 9 calls from you today, and you may be booked 2 more appointments from leads that you already had. They were free, and you're going to go sit with them, and you're going to take that stack, the next stack of 25, maybe the next day, whenever you have time again, and you're going to sit down and you're going to go through those and do the same exact process again, and turn water into wine. I mean, you're going to pull those bad leads out, and you're gonna make money from those bad leads. And then my favorite part of it, because I love being funny and he's kind of the same way, he goes, and if you're not willing to do that, I'm gonna give Elizabeth those leads of yours, and then I'm gonna call you every time she makes a sale and tell you how much money she made. Which I loved. So that was a great example of something that you can do when you're like, man, I don't want to spend on leads right now. You've got the equivalent to 3 to 6 month old leads sitting there. No need to go buy more. Try the ones that you've got. Now, of course, the fresh ones are going to be easier, right? It is easier and it is more productive when we can just buy more leads in order to make the calls, because you're going to get people who haven't been called 9 times. But you do have that stack there that is valuable. So anyway, I didn't want to take a ton of time with this today, but I wanted to cover those 3 things. Asking questions, and that's a tough one for me because I'm a people pleaser. So when someone says, hey, Brian, what's 2 + 2? I want to be like, oop, me, wait, I have the answer. I know this one, right? And I want to give the answer. But instead, you have to help them to discover the answer. And when you help them discover the answer, you're helping them to find a new skill within themselves to work through problems. You're giving them an answer that they're going to believe because they came up with it. They're probably going to implement it, which in this case, the agent would actually listen and do the suggestion that they came up with on their own. Or if it's a customer, they're going to actually go ahead with the policy because it was their idea to do so. When you're sitting with them and you ask them questions, and then they're also going to listen when you back it up with your knowledge. So when John can say, hey, this isn't the first time that an agent's come to me and said, hey, I'm broke, what do I do? So I know this works. You know, he said that people come after 2 hours of dialing and say, this isn't working. This business doesn't work. He says, have you ever been downtown in a big city? How many of those big buildings have insurance companies' names on them? Trust me, this business works. And I love that too. But anyway, so asking the questions and how you can implement that in your entire life with people, if they argue with you about something, don't try to argue your side, just ask them questions, right? With your agents, with your clients, with your kids, I mean, everywhere. I'm going to try really hard myself to implement that. That's why I put that note up on my desk so that I can do it. So that plus going through the financial inventory was the second thing that I covered, and how important that is to do that with your agents, not just your clients. But you know, that's one of Shadi's steps that is really powerful to do with clients, but just as important to know, you know, the financial inventory of your agents that you're bringing in. And then the last thing that I talked about was those breaking up your old leads into stacks of 25 and just going through them 3 times. When you have time, do it, you know, one day. And if you have time the next day, do another stack of 25 and see what you can squeeze out. There's always more juice left in those leads. But anyway, that was it for today. Anybody have any questions?
No questions, Brian, but I really like what you said about kind of like going through your old leads, because when I first started, I didn't really have much money. So Elizabeth let me go through her old leads, and I did that. And that's how I started out writing business, because I booked appointments out of her old leads that she couldn't get a hold of. So, you know, when you change your number, whether it be sideline or phone burner, you know, give it a week, call them back, you know, resolve all your leads, whether it's door knocking or calling them, like you said. So
yeah, absolutely.
Like
so
it's really good.
Yeah. What do you think the difference is from the time that Elizabeth dialed them and couldn't get a hold of them to the time that you dialed them, booked an appointment, sold a policy?
Honestly, I don't think there is a difference. Sometimes people are just busy, you know, they don't answer their phone. Sometimes they say a number and they don't know it, so they don't answer it. And then another day they see another number, like, oh, this might look familiar and maybe I know this person, and they answer it. So it just depends, I think.
Yeah, exactly. And that is the reason. That makes a lot of sense. Like, I mean, it could be so many different factors, right? It could be the day. I guarantee, I don't care who the person is and how many forms they filled out and how bad they need life insurance. If they're arguing with their spouse and you call them and they send you to voicemail, and then you call them a second time and they send you to voicemail, and then you call them a third time and they answer, you're not making an appointment with that particular person that day, right? Like, it's not going to happen. So sometimes it's just letting time pass. And Sherry, you really actually made a really good point about them recognizing a number. That is another reason that it's so important to change our phone numbers, right? Because the next dial day, if they have a friend whose phone number ends 6907 and you nail that, right? But the other numbers are different, or you get 6909 or 6709 and they go, well, I think I know that number, they're going to pick it up. What are the odds of that happening? Well, I guess slim, but you have a lot of leads. So it's going to happen. There's a million reasons why they're not going to answer and a million reasons why they will later. So yeah, those leads always have more juice to squeeze. That's awesome. Anything else? Anybody else? Anything else?
I still have lots of them, Sherry, for your team too, if you want
There you
them.
go.
And also we should do like we should do like a swap thing, like one day where we do like the swap. Remember what he said about, we talked about like, just save those leads that you can't get a hold of, put them in a stack. And then let's just say one evening where we just have like a little get together and we can swap that.
I like that. Let's do it.
I love that. That's
And
an
now-
awesome idea. Right. Just here, I'll 25 leads for 25 leads, or 200 leads for 200 leads.
Right.
And you can make it oh my gosh.
This is great.
Why we
Yeah,
do this
that's
stuff.
awesome.
I'm so writing that down, Elizabeth. That's a great idea. Lead swap challenge.
It was from John.
Was it really? Must have been out of the room when he said that.
No,
Of
you were
course it
taking
was
too
from
much
John.
notes.
That's a great idea. Oh, we totally have to do that. And that's
yeah.
fun too. Like, we're gonna swap leads, and then whoever can sell more policies, like, or something like that, wins. But ultimately everybody wins with that one. What a great idea.
And also,
yeah.
I think the good thing is, like, how like some days I had two people, I was like pushing it to try to get them, and they're like, no, we already have people coming out. I just decided not to, whatever. Also, for me, those leads go right behind, because I feel like today's not their day and they are not in a good mood. Maybe next week someone calls and they're like, okay, I changed my mind, I feel better today. I'm like, let me look at it, So yeah, don't get rid of them. Just save them for somebody else, or for another week, another month. So
yeah, absolutely. It's like they used to say it takes 7 touches. I think it was number 7. 7
Takes a
touches
village?
before somebody will, like, an ad. Touches being like them seeing your advertisement, right? Or them seeing your billboard, or them seeing your store. It takes 7 times before it ever even registers in their brain. Now, with as much as we're inundated, the number has changed, and I believe that they say it's 30 before it ever registers. So us calling and talking to them one time, that's not going to change anything necessarily. You might get the sale, but you may also have just developed one out of the 30 touches required for them to really consider life insurance. So who's going to be the 30th person to call that they finally go, yeah, you know what? It's right. I mean, I started this out by saying I've heard a million times that I should be asking questions, and I don't do it. Same exact thing. You have to hit them in the right time at the right moment. And if you only had one lead and you called them once a week, eventually they'd probably say yes, maybe. But we have hundreds and hundreds of leads. So that person having that right timing, that right moment that you just catch them just right, is gonna happen with, a ton of your leads when you have so many of them. So yeah, that's awesome. Anything else from anybody else or anyone? Cool. All right, good. Well, I like that. I learned something. The lead swap challenge. That's a lot of fun. Awesome. Good. Well, everybody, I'll let you get back to doing your thing. Oh, I do want to add one more thing. This is just off the top of my head. I was thinking about this the other day, and I don't know if it's I think it's of value, but I'm not sure. I'm going to try it myself. But if I sit down with a client and they're getting a million phone calls, they're still going to be getting life insurance calls after we leave, after we sell them a policy, right? We know because we do the same thing to them. I already took care of it. I have a lead, or I have a policy. We know how to get right past that gate, right? And get a point with them. So other people are going to have the same ability. And this is why we have people that fall off the books, because they're going to get in there and they're going to overwrite it. So while we're sitting with our clients, why don't we teach them how to get on the Do Not Call Registry? Because yes, they purchased a lead and or they filled out a form. We're allowed to call them for 3 months. Okay. After 3 months, you're supposed to double check and make sure that they're not on the Do Not Call Registry before you call them again. I looked it up. So that is technically the law. So therefore, if we get them on the Do Not Call Registry after we sell them a policy, it's going to cut down on the number of calls that they get. Personally, I think it's going to help. And I would educate them on that too. Be like, okay, we took care of life insurance. You're getting on the Do Not Call Registry. This means that no other life insurance agents should be calling you. I'm going to program my number into your phone or whatever, do it for them right there, or have them do it right there. When you see me call, it's your existing agent, your current agent. And if anyone else calls talking to you about life insurance, it's not valid. You can tell them, no, put me on your do not call list and hang up the phone. I mean, how much more valuable, how many more clients do you think you would keep on the books? And this is not a tried and true method. I just thought of it the other day. So maybe somebody can back me up on it. Maybe they're doing that, maybe somebody somewhere, but I think it's worth a shot to try with our clients and see if that does something. Anyway, just throwing it out there, had nothing to do with today's training. Cool. Anybody, any thoughts or anything before I close this off? Awesome.